Okay, guys, so we've seen some really bad takes on Elden Ring, on Shadow of the Erdtree. We've seen some weird takes from people like Alyssa Mercante over Kotaku comparing it to her own real life. People who have criticized the bosses for being too hard. People who have said that the game needs a pause button, like Quantum TV, apparently back a year ago. I didn't even know this was a thing back at the time, but apparently the whole pause button controversy was a big deal. Well, we've even seen now recently attempts by Leslie Headland over at Star Wars The Acolyte trying to compare the creation of the villain of the show to Let Me Solo Her, the person that goes around in Elden Ring helping people wearing nothing but a bucket for a helmet. I mean, weird comparison. It seems like she's just trying to do the whole, hey, I'm a gamer too, guys. Look, I'm going to do an Elden Ring reference here. So a lot of weirdness involving Elden Ring right now. It's really a strange time to be alive. We've even seen the Helldivers 2 director come out and say that, again, a game for everyone's a game for no one, talking about Elden Ring. Famously, he used that quote discussing Helldivers 2, but again, he came out backing Elden Ring, saying essentially, the games industry now is big enough for there to be so many exciting experiences for all audiences. I try to imagine having this variety when I was 10, it would have been mind-blowing. And again, reiterating his idea that, you know what, not every game has to be for every person. And I think that's a very, very based way of being. He says always cater to a select audience. And Souls games and Elden Ring has always had a select audience, despite the mainstream appeal. I think the majority of people, when I was looking at Elden Ring on Steam, when I first played it, I completed things that only 30% of Steam players actually completed at the time, like a year later. So clearly there's a big drop-off in the player base for certain games like this. Unfortunately for Helldivers 2, they're being criticized for the fact that their player base is dwindling now, but still, 45,000 people on Steam all at one time, or at least in a 24-hour period, they're not doing too bad. So people need to back off Helldivers 2. If you got a problem with the game, that's one thing, but I think their player base is doing just fine. Similar to Elden Ring, there's plenty of people playing it. But now, after the last couple of days, we've seen arguably the weirdest take on Elden Ring, going back to this pause button thing. The pause button is a big issue for a lot of people. Now, I had to look up Alanah Pearce because I knew the name. We were talking about this on the live stream last night. I'm like, okay, why does this name sound familiar? Alanah Pearce. So I looked her up. She's done a little bit of everything. She's very much in the mainstream as far as journalist, narrative director. You know, she's with the development team now. She's been a, Twitch streamer and doing all this stuff. She apparently was doing this whole thing with Starfield last year where she flew from one planet to another and then flew through the planet, and then she was criticized because she was a PlayStation person and she's playing on Xbox. So a lot of weird controversy. She even had a character in Cyberpunk apparently that was inspired based on her. I don't know. But now she's come out and said that essentially as a parent of a 2-year-old child, that you are situationally disabled if you can't pause the freaking game. I'm not kidding. And I know some of you in the comments are going to start screeching at me that, well, it is a situational disability because Microsoft says so. And okay, I'm going to just say my piece and you can feel however you want to feel about it. But the article here from Batting Into Comics says Pearce, who's prior to her current position as a writer for Sony's Santa Monica studio, had notable stints as a YouTuber, IGN editor, and Rooster Teeth employee, offered up her hot take in a video uploaded to her personal YouTube channel. Titled Elden Ring DLC is too hard, it's not. Pearce's main point was not to call for a reduction of the game's difficulty, but to share her opinion as to why I do think it would be great if disabled players could play Elden Ring. Now, before I forget, because I'm going to get into this and probably go off on a rant, and I'm going to forget the most important piece of this. She, at one point in this video, will say people sprain their wrist or break a bone and then they have a hard time playing. Guess what? When that happens, you don't freaking play the game. My kid was playing baseball 2 years ago and did something dumb and let himself fall on the ground and broke his wrist, cracked his wrist. And guess what? He didn't get to finish the season because it was a safety risk for him to play baseball. I'm sorry, there's a certain amount of accessibility that you can cater to and say, hey, let's make things more accessible for deaf people if we can do things to help them there, or, special input keyboards or controllers or whatever. But if you're a normal functioning person and you sprain your wrist and you got to take 2 weeks off from a video game, especially if you're a parent, freaking deal with it. Tough. My God, stop calling yourself disabled. So anyways, in the clips in this video, she goes on to basically say that it is a situational disability if you have children and you're trying to play this game and you can't pause.
Is concerned. There are long-term disabilities There are situational disabilities, there are temporary disabilities. It counts as a disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned if you have a kid. You have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause. It is a situational disability that you have, where the game not having the option for you to be able to pause, for example, is a hindrance for your particular disability.
I've been playing games like Escape from Tarkov, Apex Legends, Elden Ring, Dark Souls 3 for the last 10 years. Multiplayer games, online games, games that have connected, to the internet where you can't pause, or games where it's just really inconvenient if you do pause. And I've had 3 children now for going on 11 years, almost 12 years now. The reality is, as a parent, if you're playing a video game and it becomes so difficult that you have to choose between saving your child from sticking a fork in a light socket, as she goes on to say in this video, and not being able to pause the game and possibly losing your progress, I'm sorry, you should have your video game privileges revoked if you have to even... it's not even an issue. It is such a non-issue for so many of us who have a brain and realize that as a parent, these inconveniences in a video game are so minor. Such a minor thing to complain about, but she goes on to a 20-minute video talking about this.
Basically, attack and damage negation curve scaling of the Shadow Realm blessings have been revised. The attack and damage negation has been increased for the first half of the maximum amount of blessing enhancements, and the second half will now be more gradual. The attack and damage negation granted by the final level of blessing enhancements has been slightly increased. So again, I take this to mean that they kind of agree, and they were like, oh, we maybe did make this too hard. Okay, how bad?
Again, this is not Elden Ring and From Software admitting that they made the game too hard. This is them addressing a lot of people complaining about the difficulty. And unfortunately for the fact of the matter is, a lot of us, I'm playing through it, I'm 7-8 hours in. I've beaten a couple of the bosses, I'm up to Mesmer, I definitely know I can beat him if I just work at it. I don't think they needed to change this thing, to put this patch in the game where they change how the difficulty scales, depending on how many Skadgetry, fragments you've picked up. But the reality is, enough people complained, and she thinks that this is some sort of sign that Elden Ring and From Software know that they need to make the game more accessible for disabled people. Okay? And Kanatanga here pointed out on Twitter, I think she finally gets it. Alanah Pearce had tweeted out previously, it's factually called a situational disability. This is a fact. Feels like a facts versus feelings argument. It might feel off to you because of your feelings about that word, but that's still factually what it's called, and then she deleted the tweet, right? This guy here says, geez, I really hate to pull out this card, but I feel like if this clip was a man asking for a pause button, there would be nearly as big a Twitter dog pile. Wrong. Again, Kanatanga pointing out, Quantum TV, Elden Ring should have a pause button because people like me have kids and we have lives. Twitter, get good, you effing pleb. Alanah Pearce, having kids is classified as a disability, so Elden Ring needs a pause button. Twitter, Queen has a point. 100%. The reality is, and she also changed the title apparently, got rid of the it's not part of the too hard. The reality is, for many of us parents, especially the ones who don't have unlimited hours of our day, look, I have to choose between playing a video game, live streaming and doing a live stream once or twice a week on here, and making videos, or doing all the other adult things that I have to do after my kids finally go to bed at 9:30 at night every night. So, do you think that it would be great for me if I could sit on my butt all day playing video games? Sure, that'd be fun for a while. I'm a parent. That would be completely irresponsible and selfish on my part. And to consider it some sort of disability that you had kids and that you somehow now have to take care of them because you have to prevent them from killing themselves, absolutely mind-blowing. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to check out minimaleffort.shop. I have got our merch, our videos, all of our news articles listed on here. Also, make sure you check out Meta PCs. They've got a 4th of July sale going on through July 8th. Massive discounts across the board. They do fantastic custom builds as well as pre-builts. Lots to check out. That being said, let me know your thoughts on Alanah. Let me know if you actually agree with her on any of this. Is it a disability if you have kids and you can't pause a game? Are you disabled now? I think it just is victim mentality BS, but let me know what you think down below, and I will catch you guys later. Alright, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.